You hear steel strike stone. The sound repeats. Slow. Deliberate. The air is cold. Dry. Unforgiving. Your wrists burn where rope cuts into skin. The ground beneath you is rough. Cracked stone. Light filters in from above. Not warm. Not kind. You are not alone. You are being watched. A voice speaks a choice. Renounce. Or die. You think this moment belongs to Persia. But it started in Rome. A single letter traveled across land. 1,500 miles. Wax sealed. Signed by an emperor. That letter named you. If you want more stories like the one that destroyed Persia, hit subscribe. Rome. 303 AD. The sound is fire. The temperature is rising. The texture is ash and broken stone. Light flickers from burning buildings. Churches fall. Scrolls burn. Altars shatter. This is not chaos. It is organized. Emperor Diocletian issues orders. Destroy Christian meeting places. Burn sacred texts. Remove legal protection. Christians are no longer citizens. They are targets. Bishops are arrested. Some are burned on metal grids. Others are seated on heated iron chairs. Skin fuses to steel. On a frozen lake, 40 men stand naked, cracking ice under their feet. A warm bathhouse is visible nearby. A promise of life for betrayal. 39 die in silence. A Roman guard steps forward. He removes his armor. He takes the last place on the ice. Persecution continues for years. This is the system. Power defines truth. Faith equals treason. Then it stops. 312 AD. Another sound. Trumpets. Marching. Shields striking. Constantine faces Maxentius. Outnumbered. Outpositioned. He looks at the sky. Light above the sun. A symbol. A command. He orders the symbol painted on shields. Not Roman. Not pagan. Christian. Battle follows. Bodies fall. The Tiber River fills with armor and drowning men. Maxentius dies. Constantine survives. He does not credit strategy. He credits the Christian God. A year later, 313 AD, a decree is signed. The Edict of Milan. Christianity becomes legal. Property is returned. Churches are rebuilt. Clergy gain power. To Roman Christians, Constantine is a savior. But empires have borders and enemies. 1,500 miles east sits Persia, the Sasanian Empire. Older, unified, Zoroastrian. Fire is sacred. The Magi control ritual. They control knowledge. They advise the king. Shapur II rules. Crowned before birth. Obsessed with power and stability. Rome is the enemy. Now Rome is Christian. And Persia has Christians too. Merchants. Villagers. Clergy. They share faith with Rome. Not loyalty. But identity is enough. The Magi whisper. These Christians answer to Rome. For years, Shapur tolerates them. They are watched. Counted. Marked. Then the letter arrives. A Roman emperor writes to a Persian king. He names Christianity. He praises his God. He mentions Christians living inside Persia. He urges protection. To Constantine, it is compassion. To Shapur, it is a warning. A foreign ruler is claiming people inside his borders. A quiet threat disguised as kindness. The letter is read, then set aside. A fuse has been lit, and it will burn for 15 years. You hear metal scraping stone. Boots on dry ground. Voices behind a closed door. The air is warm now. Dust suspended. Sweat on skin. Rough wool brushes your arm. A hand pushes you forward. Light enters through a narrow opening. Thin. White. Unforgiving. 15 years have passed since the letter arrived. No arrests. No executions. The words have not been forgotten. Persia is under pressure. Border conflicts with Rome increase. Raids intensify. Resources drain. Shapur feels it. Every report. Every rumor. Every whisper. The Magi return to the letter. They say it proves disloyalty. They say Roman faith means Roman allegiance. They say Christians are waiting for invasion. In 340 AD, Shapur acts. He does not start with blood. He starts with money. A double tax is imposed. Only on Christians. A war tax. A loyalty test. It is not possible to pay. Word spreads quickly. Christian families sell land, sell tools, sell animals. It is not enough. Then the summons arrive. Bishop Shimon bar Sabi is called to court. Leader of the Persian church. Respected. Elderly. Sound in the hall is minimal. Only footsteps and breathing. The temperature is controlled. Cool. Deliberate. The texture is stone beneath sandals. Polished wood at the throne. Cold iron at the guard's belt. Light falls on Shapur. It does not touch the prisoner. One command is spoken. Collect the tax from your people. Shimon refuses. He will not make Christians fund war against their own faith. Silence follows. Shapur accuses him of treason. He says Christianity makes him loyal to Caesar. He says Constantine's words proved it. The letter has returned. Now it is a weapon. Shimon is imprisoned. Days pass. Then an order is given. 100 priests are taken from their homes, dragged through the city, brought before the bishop. You hear chains clanking. You feel the heat of bodies packed close. You smell fear. One by one, they are beheaded. No speeches. No pity. Shimon watches. He is offered release again. Abandon the faith. Worship the sun. Live. He refuses again. On Good Friday, 341 AD, he is executed. The killing does not end. It expands. This has become policy. Lists are written. Names gathered. Addresses marked. The system moves fast now. Governors receive instructions. Soldiers enforce them. Clergy are targeted first. Bishops, priests, deacons. They are dragged into public spaces, ordered to worship fire. Most refuse. They are stoned, crucified, burned. The methods are consistent. The purpose is clear. Eliminate leadership. Break structure. Break faith. After clergy, civilians follow. Entire families are lined up. Convert or die? Some choose life. Most do not. Convert from Zoroastrianism? No negotiation. Immediate execution. Bodies are left in streets. No burial. No mourning. It is meant to teach. Years pass. The pattern continues. When war intensifies, so does killing. When Rome advances, Christians die. The persecution is not emotional. It is mathematical. Threat equals elimination. Records estimate 16,000 dead. Some say more. Many are forgotten. Names erased. Entire villages gone. If you're still watching, understand this. This is not chaos. This is an administrative decision, all triggered by one diplomatic gesture. Constantine is already dead. He never sees this, never hears the screams, never smells the smoke. In Rome, churches rise. In Persia, bodies fall. Same faith, opposite outcomes. The letter did not cause hatred. It confirmed suspicion, and suspicion became policy. The system now claims control over belief itself. And it is not finished yet. You hear a hammer strike wood, not for building, for marking. The air is stale, heavy with smoke, burned oil, rot. The texture beneath your feet is uneven, ash mixed with dirt, fragments of pottery and bone. Light no longer enters directly, only through cracks and broken walls. This is what remains of a Christian quarter. The persecution has moved past individuals. Now it targets infrastructure. Church buildings are erased, meeting houses dismantled, cemeteries destroyed. The state is not just killing people. It is deleting memory. Shapur's government is methodical. Magi record where Christians once gathered. Local officials verify lists. Soldiers return to confirm destruction. In some cities, crosses are ripped down. In others, stones are reused for Zoroastrian temples. The message is clear. Christian presence will not remain visible. Survivors scatter. Some hide in the countryside. Others cross borders. Many renounce their faith in public, but not in private. Anyone caught practicing in secret is executed. No trial. No debate. Only outcome. Children grow up watching this. They learn silence early. They learn to control words. They learn to hide symbols. A generation is shaped by fear. Shapur's reasoning is consistent. He is fighting war on two fronts. External Rome. Internal loyalty. Every Christian is now seen as potential intelligence, a possible messenger, a possible traitor. No evidence is required. Connection equals guilt. In border regions, the killings become extreme. Large groups are taken outside city walls. The sound of rope tightening, bodies dropping. In urban centers, executions are public. It is theater. Resistance is discouraged through display. The Magi interpret religious deviation as disease. Disease must be removed quickly. They convince Shapur it is divine duty. This is no longer politics alone. It is ideology reinforced by religion and state power. The system is complete. Religion defines loyalty. Power defines truth. And death enforces order. Far away in Rome, Christians praise Constantine's legacy. New basilicas rise. Gold and marble are used. Clergy gain status. No one speaks of Persia. They do not hear the names of its dead. The Church of the East is being erased. One community at a time. Yet it does not disappear completely. Small networks survive. Hidden clergy continue rituals in silence. Texts are copied at night by candlelight. Belief becomes secret. Over time, resistance changes form. Open worship becomes memory. Survival becomes the goal. And another shift begins. Persian Christians learn a painful lesson. Visibility invites death. Foreign connection invites suspicion. They begin cutting ties to Rome. Not in belief, but in appearance. Language changes. Ritual adapts. Leadership becomes local. If Christianity is to survive here, it must not look Roman. The persecution slowly loses momentum. Not because of mercy, but because of exhaustion. Another ruler takes attention. Another war demands resources. In the late 4th century, pressure eases. The system relaxes. But it does not apologize. It simply moves on. Entire neighborhoods remain empty. Families gone forever. Their names unspoken. The Church of the East rebuilds, carefully, quietly. Without Rome, it expands eastward, out through trade routes, into Central Asia, eventually into China, far from Persia's court, far from Rome's emperors. But the memory remains. A warning burned into identity. Never be owned by a foreign power. Never be seen as someone else's people again. All of it traces back to that letter. Not a sword, not an army, not even a decree. Just words. Words misread. Words misunderstood. Words weaponized. This was never a matter of theology. It was a matter of interpretation. One emperor believed he was protecting his faith. Another believed he was protecting his empire. Both acted logically, and thousands died in between. You hear paper unfolding. Dry, delicate. The air is still, not peaceful, careful. The texture is thin parchment, creased, worn at the edges. Light touches faded ink. Letters written years before the blood. Constantine's words no longer travel. They sit in archives, but their effect is permanent. This is not ancient history. This is a recurring pattern. A ruler declares protection. Another ruler hears interference. Identity crosses a border. Power reacts. This is how suspicion is born. Shapur did not invent paranoia. He responded to perceived threat. He saw an enemy ideology embedded inside his state. He used force to remove it. His logic was defensive, but the outcome was annihilation. That same logic continues through history. Minorities tied to foreign powers become convenient targets. Religious groups with external allies become political liabilities. It is always framed as security. It is always executed as erasure. The system protects itself first. People are secondary. In Persia, the surviving Christians adapt. They change visible customs. They emphasize loyalty to Persia. They remove Roman influence where possible. Not for theology, for survival. Their leaders teach neutrality. No politics. No external allegiance. Faith becomes internal. Lived quietly. This helps them endure. But the damage is irreparable. Loss is not only counted in bodies. It is in ruptured families, extinguished languages, erased libraries. Knowledge dies with people. Songs stop being sung. Names stop being spoken. This is the long consequence of misplaced power. For Constantine, the story had already ended. He died in 337 AD. He believed Christians everywhere were safe. He was wrong. No messenger ever reached him from Persia. No witness testified. His legacy in Rome is celebrated. His unintended damage is not remembered. History favors the powerful survivor, not the silent dead. Shapur ruled until 379 AD. In his mind, order was restored. Control was maintained. The empire stayed united. He was also partly wrong. His actions created deep distrust, permanent division, long-term instability. Violence solves an immediate problem. It creates a larger one later. Between these two rulers, thousands lived ordinary lives. Farmers, mothers, children, tradesmen. They were never consulted, never asked their allegiance. They were assigned one, then executed for it. This is how systems destroy individuals. You are reduced to a category, a label, a suspicion. Your personal truth becomes irrelevant. Only perception matters, and perception is controlled by those in power. The Great Slaughter of Persia is not only about religion. It is about miscommunication at the highest level. It forms a blueprint. One leader assumes shared morals. Another interprets threat. Neither pauses long enough to see the people in between. One letter convinces an empire that loyalty is divided. Then violence begins. Every death that followed carried the same root, misunderstood intent. This is the danger of power without proximity. When decisions are made hundreds of miles away, the human cost becomes abstract. You never hear the screams. You never feel the heat of burning streets. You never see the bodies. That distance allows decisions to repeat. And they do. Not because leaders are always cruel, but because they are always distant. And distance erases empathy. As the 4th century ends, Persia stabilizes. Religious tolerance slowly returns. Not as kindness, as practicality. But the memory remains in Christian communities. They teach their children caution. They teach history without naming it openly. They teach one lesson above all: never let your faith become foreign property again. The system that nearly destroyed them is still remembered, not in books, in behavior. And the letter from Constantine becomes legend, a warning more powerful than any doctrine. Power must think beyond itself, or innocent people will pay the price again. You hear a low murmur. Not prayer, not conversation. The air is different now. Less smoke, more caution. The texture around you is fabric walls. Tents, temporary shelter. Light enters through rough cloth. Filtered, muted. These are survivors. They do not gather in cities. They gather on the edge of them. They no longer build churches. They build distance. Every movement is calculated. Every word is chosen. A knock still means danger. A stranger still means risk. Even when the killing slows, trust does not return. Because systems do not disappear. They wait. Older men tell the story without names. They speak of the year when lists were made, of the year the soldiers arrived, of the year families vanished. They do not mention Constantine. They do not mention Shapur. They blame power itself. As decades pass, memory becomes strategy. The Church of the East does not rebuild as it was. It evolves. No public alignment with Rome. No declarations of international unity. Leadership becomes regional. Persian in language. Persian in appearance. Not to deny belief, to survive it. This reformation changes the path of Christianity in Asia. It no longer flows west. It moves east, along trade routes, through merchant networks, across vast land. No empire protects it. No emperor sponsors it. It grows quietly, carefully. By the 7th century, it reaches China, long before European missionaries. It enters cultures without conquering them, because it cannot afford to. Ironically, persecution has made it adaptable, but that adaptation is born of trauma. A trauma created by two empires playing defense. The larger world forgets Persia's Christians. History books focus on Rome, on Constantine, on church councils and imperial politics. They skip over the people crushed between them, because those people left no monuments. No surviving state. Only scattered records. Fragments. Whispers. But the pattern they live through is not ancient. It repeats across eras. Anytime a group is linked to an outside power, they become suspicious at home. Their loyalty is questioned. Their presence becomes political. And with politics comes danger. Religious minorities under global conflict are always first under scrutiny. The Great Slaughter of Persia is an early blueprint for a modern pattern. Labels create targets. Belief becomes evidence. Identity becomes accusation. In the Roman mind, Constantine was a hero. In the Persian mind, Constantine was a threat. Among Persian Christians, his name was a ghost, a figure who changed everything without ever setting foot there. This is the privilege and danger of distance. He never saw the villages, never heard the confessions, never stood before the execution pits. So he never adjusted, never apologized, never corrected. His mistake lived longer than he did. Shapur also never saw them as people, only as numbers, potential traitors, thousands of individuals reduced to a policy, not because of what they did, because of what they were connected to. Power simplifies human life until it becomes manageable to destroy. That is how disasters scale. The machinery that killed Persian Christians is the same machinery that still exists. Surveillance, categorization, suspicion, authority. Change the names, change the symbols, keep the method. This is why the story matters, not as tragedy from the distant past, but as an operating manual for oppression. If a ruler can point at a group and claim they owe loyalty elsewhere, violence becomes justified. And if people accept that logic, they become part of the system. The Great Slaughter is not defined by brutality. It is defined by rationalization. It made sense to those in power, and that is why it was allowed. History is not shaped by madness alone. It is shaped by decisions that seem reasonable under fear. Understanding that is the real warning. Because fear still exists, borders still exist, and power still thinks in categories. Only the victims change names. And you've heard their story now. You hear silence that is not empty. It is aftermath. The air is cooler now, not from peace, from absence. The texture underfoot is no longer bone and ash. It is rebuilt stone, but it remembers. Light returns to the streets, but it does not erase what happened here. 40 years of persecution ends without ceremony. No pardon, no apology, just reduced attention. Power finds another focus. The system does not admit failure. It simply redirects itself. Persia stabilizes. New threats, new borders, new enemies. And the Christians who survived are no longer the same. They have been reprogrammed by force. They live carefully, speak minimally. They teach their children caution. Faith survives, but innocence does not. The Church of the East becomes disciplined, strategic, invisible when needed. It removes any sign of Roman influence. No foreign allegiance, no visible unity. A lesson written in blood. Centuries later, historians reconstruct these events. They find letters, court records, religious writings, execution lists. They see causality emerge, not between good and evil, between fear and misunderstanding. Constantine had power, but no local knowledge. Shapur had authority, but no nuance. Both acted from belief. Both triggered devastation. The people who died never touched a throne, never wrote a letter, never commanded an army. They were born in the wrong position on a map. That is the quiet violence of history. Large decisions crush small lives, and those lives are rarely remembered. Until now, what happened in Persia forces a more uncomfortable truth. Persecution is rarely about doctrine. It is about control. It is about suspicion, fear of the outside, fear of the different, fear of losing power. Religion is often just the excuse. When Constantine wrote his letter, he believed he was extending mercy. He believed faith made all Christians one people. He did not understand that political borders do not respect spiritual unity. He believed his victory was universal. He was wrong. Good intention without understanding is dangerous. Distance without accountability is lethal, and history is full of people who believe they were doing the right thing. That is what makes it terrifying, because it means it can happen again and again, not through hatred alone, through misplaced certainty. Two rulers failed to see the humans between them, and thousands paid the price. This story is not about ancient Persia. It is about now. Every time a group is linked to an outside power, every time loyalty is questioned, every time identity becomes political, it is the same mechanism, different names, same result. The Great Slaughter did not end in 380 AD. It only changed form. And if no one studies it, it will happen again. Tell me in the comments, what modern situation looks like this? And if you want the story's history tried to bury, subscribe. We are not here for comfort. We are here for the truth.